Today, we're going to continue our study in the book of Isaiah. We're going to be in the 14th chapter and how God looks at evil in the long run. And we're going to talk about the ultimate judgment and the ultimate reactions that God gives towards people who are evil in the way they conduct their lives, evil rulers, evil tyrants that are governments. And I think we can also take it to the bank and apply our personal walks. We're going to be discussing that today, and we'll do that when we come right back. Welcome to Bible Study with Friends, where our goal is to help you get more impact from your Bible study. I'm here with my friend Jake Curtis, and Jake and I are going to continue our study in the great book of Isaiah. Today we're in the 14th chapter of Isaiah. And if you've read ahead at all, you realize that the 14th chapter is in some ways a very difficult chapter. I saw a lot of scholars who have a real problem with chapter 14, and I'll explain why in a minute. And I had trouble. I had to read through the chapter 3 or 4 times before I finally figured out what was going on. Verse 1 down to verse 23 finishes what started in chapter 13, and that was this judgment against Babylon. And then in verse 24 on, he's going to talk about prophecies against various nations. We talked a little bit about that last week. But today he's finishing the prophecy in Babylon, and it was, in a lot of ways, it was puzzling. And I want to go into this with some detail and kind of get where I think it's gone and what makes sense for me in understanding chapter 14. I've entitled this, Evil Beware, Final Judgment is Coming. And you'll see why I chose that title as we go here. You ready to get started?
I am.
All right. If we look at verse 1, when the Lord will have compassion. Now, this is right in the middle of the judgment on Babylon. The last verse in chapter 13 said, Babylon's going to be destroyed. It's going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah. There's not going to be anything but wild animals living there. And that's true even to this day. Then it talks about when the Lord will have compassion on Jacob and again choose Israel. So he's going to again choose Israel to show favor towards, right? And settle them in their own land. Then strangers will join them and attach themselves to the house of Jacob. After the 70 years of captivity under Babylon, when Persia takes over, Israel is going to be permitted to go back to Palestine, and they will establish a land there. The Persian kings, we got Darius, we got Artaxerxes, allow Zerubbabel and Nehemiah and Ezra to return at various stages to rebuild the temple, to rebuild the city of Jerusalem. So that's going to happen. It's going to happen on the short term. And it says that when it does happen, there will be strangers, be non-Jews who will go with them from Babylon. And we know from history that Gentiles who became Jews during that 70 years of captivity, because of some of the things that happened with Daniel during the captivity, some of the miracles that happened, people were paying attention to the Jewish faith and to the God of the Jews. Now let's go over to verse 2. So now this is where it starts to get a little puzzling for us. Read verse 2 and verse 3.
The peoples will take them along and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them as an inheritance in the land of the Lord, as male servants and female servants, and they will take their captors captive and will rule over their oppressors. And it will be in the day when the Lord gives you rest from your pain and turmoil and harsh service in which you have been enslaved.
Now let me ask you a question. It says there that they're going to return to the land, and the people, the nations that held them captive, will themselves serve Israel. Now, has that happened?
Israel went back to land, but I don't think that second half has happened.
Okay.
It has. I don't know.
And look at the next verse. Has the Lord given Israel complete rest Look what that verse says. And it will be in the day when the Lord gives you rest from your pain and turmoil and harsh service in which you have been enslaved. Jeremiah 46:27 is a good cross reference for this idea of God giving rest. But all of a sudden, when I read that, it started not to make sense because this is a prophecy about the end of Babylon, and Babylon is defeated by Persia. But there's things in here that have not happened yet. And there's a section of verses that a lot of scholars really puzzle over why it's there. And I think it makes sense if you take my approach to chapter 14. And let's go to this. There is a point in the book of Daniel when Daniel promises at the end of time, the Messiah of Israel will set up a kingdom, and that kingdom is going to last forever, and it's going to conquer all other kingdoms. That is in Daniel chapter 7, verse 18 to 27. And if you read that,
But the saints of the Most High shall receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever and ever.
Now,
27, and the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. His kingdom shall be an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him.
so Daniel starts talking about at the end of time, there's going to be a kingdom that rules all of the other kingdoms, and it will be a kingdom for his people, Jews and Gentiles. And that's the prophecy in Daniel, right? Now, if we go to verse 3, it will be in the day of the Lord when the Lord gives you rest from your pain, turmoil, harsh service in which you have been enslaved, and that you will take up this taunt against the king of Babylon and say, it starts to make sense if you say, okay, all of a sudden, this chapter has switched from the near prophecy of Babylon's destruction to the ultimate prophecy of Babylon's destruction. And we'll see that as we go here. Then we start to see some sense. Now, the next verse talks about the king of Babylon. Now, the king of Babylon was Nebuchadnezzar and then Belshazzar. Why aren't they named? Why doesn't it say, and there's going to be judgment on Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar or Belshazzar? Because we have to figure out who the king of Babylon is. Okay? And now it starts to make a little bit more sense because the king of Babylon is another term for Satan.
Okay.
Babylon was an evil empire. And there have been a lot of evil empires, right? Assyria, Babylon, then Persia, Medes, and then Greece, and then Rome, and there are tons of tyrants. And this is a prophecy against the ultimate tyrant that motivates and really empowers all of the tyrants of history. All of the evildoers of history are basically motivated by the ultimate king of Babylon, Satan. I hope this video has been a blessing to you. Bible Study with Friends is a nonprofit ministry. We do not sell anything. We don't advertise anything. This is totally a faith-based organization. And we rely upon our viewers to help us with donations. And this is a tax-deductible 501c3. And we would ask you to think about, pray about, maybe $5, buy us a cup of coffee. And we'd appreciate that. Join our community. You can go to the description below and see a link to give to Bible Study with Friends. And we appreciate it. And now back to our study. I want you to flip over to Revelation chapter 14, verse 7 and 8.
And he said with a loud voice, Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made heaven and earth and the sea and the springs of water. Another angel, a second, followed, saying, Fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality.
That's this judgment against the ultimate Babylon, right? So the king of Babylon is this ultimate ruler of evildoers. And now the judgment is switching to there will be a time when Israel and God's people will have ultimate rest because there's going to be a final judgment, a final, ultimate judgment on the one who instigates evil throughout the world. Now let's go on. A lot of scholars are very curious about some verses that are coming up and why they're there, but it makes sense if we go along here. Now let's talk about this. In verse 4, it says, at this ultimate judgment, take up this taunt. And the word taunt, there's a little number there, and you go over there, and it means proverb or saying. So this isn't like a tease. This is a taunt, as in, we win, you don't. Okay? And take up this taunt against the king of Babylon and say,
How the oppressor has ceased, and how fury has ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the ruler, which used to strike the peoples in fury with unceasing strokes, which subdued the nations in anger with unrestrained persecution. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into shouts of joy.
would you say that now Babylon has been destroyed? We know that's a historical fact. Would you say that the whole earth is at rest
No,
and shouts for joy? No,
no.
it can't be talking about the fulfillment of the earthly kingdom of Babylon, because when they were destroyed, the whole world did not go to rest because the Medes and Persians took over,
Mhm.
then the Greeks, and then the Romans. So all of a sudden, it's talking about something that's going to happen in the future that has not happened in current history. That
Right.
start to make sense?
Yep.
So then you go, he's not lying there. He's saying the whole world is at rest after the king of Babylon is judged, right? And then keep going with verse 8.
Even the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, since you are laid low, no tree cutter comes up against us. Sheol from beneath is excited over you to meet you when you come. It
All right,
arouses
wait a second. What does Sheol mean?
death, the grave, hell.
Okay, that's exactly what it means. It means death, right? Now,
Yeah.
it says, death from beneath is excited over you to meet you when you come. It arouses for you the spirits of the dead. And that basically is, Hebrew means the departed spirits of all the leaders of the earth. It raises all the kings of the nations from their thrones. What does? Death does. So there's a judgment coming that is a judgment of death on the king of Babylon, the ultimate king. Now we know that it would be hell. But all the tyrants, all the sin and wickedness, evil of the world history is going to also join him in death because they died. They're historical. They're all dead. But you could also say this is joining the king of Babylon in spiritual death.
Yeah.
Now those verses starting to make sense, because if it means Babylon, the current Babylon that's just been destroyed, it doesn't make sense. So now read verse 10 and 11.
They will all respond and say to you, even you have been made weak as we, you have become like us. Your pomp and the music of your harps have been brought down to Sheol. Maggots are spread out as your bed beneath you, and worms are your covering.
In other words, all tyrants of the world are going to face death, including Satan, the king of Babylon. Now, he hasn't yet, but he will face death. Now, all of a sudden, all the scholars were saying verses 12 to verse 17 don't make any sense for why they're there. A lot of scholars really puzzled over this, saying, if this is the end of Babylon and the curse on Babylon, the historical Babylon, the earthly Babylon, what are these verses talking about all of a sudden with a description of Satan? And if the king of Babylon is Satan, then it starts to make perfect sense. The evil that Satan commits that takes the evil rulers of the world with him are because of these verses. So let's look at these. And they cross-reference very nicely with Ezekiel 28, verse 11 to 19, that describes the fall of the angel Lucifer, where he becomes Satan and he falls from heaven. And it uses that same terminology here. You can go to Ezekiel 28, 11 through 19 and read it on your own. Let's look at 12 through 17. Go ahead and read through that, and I'll just make comments as we go.
How you have fallen from heaven, O star of the morning, son of the
Right? That's a
dawn.
description out of Ezekiel. That's a description
Ezekiel.
of Satan. Go
Yep.
ahead.
You have been cut down to the earth. You have weakened the nations. But you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of the assembly in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Nevertheless, you will be thrust down to Sheol, to the recesses of the pits. To those who see you will gaze at you. They will ponder over you, saying,
Okay, now wait a minute. We'll get to that verse. But look at verse 15. You will be thrust down to death, to Sheol, to the recesses of the pit. Now, has that happened to Satan yet? No. He's been cast down. He has fallen to the earth where he has corrupted nations and rulers, evil rulers, but he has not yet been put into the pit of hell. That's going to happen in Revelation. So it's obvious here. He's talking about the king of Babylon as the ultimate Satan. And Satan is going to be described as, I'll make myself the pride that he committed. And that's reflected in Ezekiel. I will make myself like the Most High God. I'll be great. That even goes back to when Satan tempted Adam and Eve in the garden. He said, if you eat the apple, you'll be like God. And that was his problem. He thought he was going to be like God. And right now he's on the earth, but there's going to be an ultimate judgment. So you could say, hey, evil, beware. The final judgment is coming. So let's go back here and let's go look at the next verse, 17. They're saying he's thrown into the pit, and the world is saying,
Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world like a wilderness and overthrew its cities, who did not allow his prisoners to go home?
all right, it's interesting that when Satan's ultimate judgment happens and he's thrown into the pit, he has no power. God judges his power. God takes it all away and says, I condemn you to the pit. So they're all going, hey, wow, he's the guy that brought all this evil on the world and he's got no power left. He's being judged in the final judgment.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, those verses, and a lot of scholars said that can't be describing Satan because it doesn't make any sense in the context of the end of Babylon, because that didn't happen. But it does if we're talking about the ultimate judgment of the ultimate king of Babylon, Satan, and the judgment on the ultimate Babylon that we see in Revelation chapter 18. Then it makes sense that it's there because this is a prophecy that God is going to have a comeuppance to Satan. Now, if we read just the rest of this real quick, verse 18 on, go ahead and keep reading.
All the kings of the nations lie in glory, each in his own tomb. But you have been cast out of your tomb like a
Now, watch the terms that all describe death here.
yes. But you have been cast out of your tomb like a rejected branch, clothed with the slain who are pierced with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pits like a trampled corpse. You will not be united with them in burial because you have ruined your country, you have slain your people. May the offspring of evildoers not be mentioned forever.
Okay. That's in the end of verse 20 is this idea of the ultimate judgment of all evildoers is they're not going to be written in the book of life. They're not going to be recorded and they're not going to be on the lips of people in heaven. They're
Right.
just not going to be mentioned forever. And then we go with 21 and 22.
Prepare for his sons a place of slaughter because of the iniquity of their fathers. They must not arise and take possession of the earth and fill the face of the whole of the world with cities. I will rise up against them, declares the Lord of hosts, and will cut off from Babylon name and survivors, offspring and posterity, declares the Lord.
All right. Now, if you look at Revelation 18, verse 2, verse 10, verse 21, it all talks about Babylon is going to be judged permanently. And then in 23, he says, I will also make it a possession for the hedgehog and swamps of water, and I will sweep it with the broom of destruction, declares the Lord of hosts. And that judgment continues. It's over in Isaiah 21, verse 9 and 10. It talks about this total destruction on Babylon. That is the physical Babylon that we get today. But there's also going to be a total destruction of the spiritual Babylon, the kingdom of Satan, who is the ultimate king of Babylon. Now, this prophecy makes a ton of sense that God is not only going to judge the physical Babylon and conquer it and destroy it, but he's also going to ultimately destroy, ultimately judge the king of Babylon, the spiritual Babylon of evil. And that's a promise we can take to the bank that God is not going to let Satan win. There is a prophecy of the ultimate destruction of this one who comes, he falls from heaven in his pride, and he corrupts the world with evil and corrupts rulers with evil. And that evil will be stopped. It will be judged. It will be destroyed forever in the future. What a promise.
Yeah.
Now, chapter 14 makes a ton of sense.
Using Babylon as a metaphor for the ultimate judgment.
The kingdom of Babylon is the ultimate evil under the king of Babylon. The ultimate king of Babylon is Satan. And there's going to be an ultimate judgment of all evil that he has ever created. When he fell from heaven and he basically said, I'm going to stir up evil on the earth, including towards Adam and Eve. And man caused the fall and caused all the evil in the world. That evil is going to be finally judged with victory. And then back to that verse in 3, we're going to get our ultimate rest and joy. Look back at that verse in verse 3. Just jump back and read it.
Yeah. When the Lord has given you rest from your pain and turmoil and the hard service which you've been made to serve.
So we'll be at rest in heaven forever.
Yeah.
What a great promise. Listen, we're going to continue now. The rest of the chapter is going to be a judgment on Assyria and then a judgment on Philistia, the Philistines. So now that Babylon has been judged, the physical Babylon and the promise of the ultimate Babylon, now he's going to march through the physical countries that have oppressed Israel. And we'll see that starting from 13:1 all the way to 29:18. And we'll see, I named them last week. We got Babylon, Philistia, Moab, Damascus, Egypt, the seas, Edom and Arabia, Jerusalem, Tyre, and the Negev.
Yeah, there's a lot.
All are going to be judged between now and chapter 28. So it'll be an interesting section. And that's where our map's going to go.
Yeah, it'll be helpful.
From 13 to 23. And I've got a map, and we'll look at where those countries are. Where is Syria? Where is Philistia? Where is Moab? We'll look at those, and I've got a map ready to go.
That'd be good.
All right. We will talk to you next week. Today we've been talking about judgment, the ultimate judgment, and the warning to evil. The final judgment is coming. I want to recommend a video to you. Choose judgment or deliverance. It's out of the book of Obadiah, and I think you'll enjoy it. And listen, we're going to continue our study next week. And until then, God bless you.